All right, guys, so here's my first rental property story. Here's the numbers on exactly what I put into it. Did I make any money? Was it worth it? I'm gonna give you all of that information. We're gonna break this video down. We're gonna start off on the numbers, then we're gonna go to the tenants, getting it rented out, and then we're gonna go through the process of me selling it. So if you wanna skip through and find a certain spot that you're looking for, go ahead, but we're gonna start off with the numbers on the property. So I bought this property in 2023. At the time, I was looking for a duplex, triplex, something that I could house hack. That was my ultimate goal with this. So I was looking on the market, and there was two properties in my price range that were in the area that I was willing to purchase a property in. So I found this one. It was $135,000 on the market. Me and my realtor, we went to the seller and we said, hey, we'll do $100,000. They didn't counteroffer. They didn't do anything besides say, absolutely not. We're taking $135,000, not a dime less. So at that point, I was like, dang, I was hoping that they would at least negotiate a little bit, come down off of it somewhat, but no, they didn't, not even a penny. So I ended up buying the property for $135,000. At the time too, I was excited. I just done my first wholesale deal. If you didn't see that video, I made $54,000 on my first wholesale deal. Go watch that video, it's a banger. So yeah, I was super excited. I wanted to buy my first rental, start house hacking, and start making some money, right? So I bought the property for $135,000. My down payment was 3.5%. So I got an FHA loan because I was going to house hack the property. So I didn't have to put 25%, 20%, anything like that down. It was 3.5%. So I put down $4,725. My new loan balance was right around like $131,000, give or take. I anticipated I was going to put roughly like $10,000, maybe $15,000 into it. I was doing construction at the time, so I literally did home remodeling for a living. I'd done that for like 2 years, so I really thought I had a good idea of what I was going to put into it. Come to find out, I actually ended up putting $25,000 into this property. So even though I had a construction background, I thought I knew what I was going to put into it. I had never actually done the rehab, right? So I was never the one that was pricing the materials, doing the rehab, all of that. I was just there as a contractor that would go in and do the work. So I knew how to do the work, but I wasn't really, knowing what it was going to cost to actually get the materials and then put everything in there. So the property, like I said, it was a duplex. I spent almost $6,000 just on flooring, guys. That was a huge cost. We're not going to dive into the cost, but that is what I put into the property. It was $25,000 when I was anticipating $10,000 to $15,000. So I ended up putting that much into the property. It took me 6 months, guys, to finally get the rehab done. I did all the work. I'm not kidding you. I did every single bit of the work to this property by myself. My dad came over and helped me with a couple of things that I needed, like putting some drywall on the ceiling and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, I did legitimately everything myself. There was a couple of hiccups in between, I had the city, so the connection from the city water to my house, there's a meter. So your water meter where it tracks the water going in, it broke right before that. So I had lead piping too going from the street, out, so behind that. So my basement started flooding and I had to call the city, had to have them come out. I can't remember exactly how much it cost to do it. I heard some people say I could have charged them or they should have done it for free or something like that. I can't remember if I ended up paying or not. I think it was like maybe $250 or something like that. So that sucked. But yeah, there's always things that you're not going to account for that are going to happen when you're buying a property. So just remember that, especially when you're buying a property that was built 115 years ago. So this property was built in 1910. Took me 6 months to do the rehab on this property. I was all in it for $25,000. I did everything from new drywall on the ceiling, remodeled the bathrooms, upstairs, downstairs. I'll make sure to put some videos in here too, or if you go through my channel on some of my shorts, you can see some of the bathroom remodels that I did. And yeah, it had the old plaster and lath and all that crap. So man, it was a huge project. I wasn't expecting to do so much work on this. That is one of the things too you have to remember when you're buying your first rental is I was looking at it and I was like, yeah, $10K. I'm gonna do this, this. But then I started doing it and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to live here. I'm going to kind of spice it up, make it a little bit nicer. So then I was getting the LVP flooring, which is very good. I got high quality flooring. That's why I spent so much money on it. And then I started trying to do the most. So for the bathroom vent fan, I got, a bathroom vent that did all the colors. It played music. It was Bluetooth. I did all of that stuff, guys. So I was really trying to make this thing, deck it out, but it's not worth it. You're not doing that. You don't need to do that. That's pretty much what I put into the property. Those are the numbers on it. If you want to skip to the very end, that's where I'll tell you what I made or lost on the property. So when I ended up selling it. So we're going to jump into the tenant story real quick. I planned when I bought this property to always have a management company. My goal was to start buying more rentals, and start accumulating, but I stuck every penny that I had into this property. So how am I going to buy a property if I don't have any money? So I anticipated on having a property management company the entire time. So I am beyond grateful I did that, and I'll tell you why. So I ended up thinking that I was going to rent this property out for $900 to $1,000. Okay, guys, $900 to $1,000. My mortgage on the property, by the way, was $1,050. It was $1,050, and it ended up bumping up because of a tax or appraisal or something like that. My mortgage on the property went from $1,050 to $1,275, guys. That is a massive jump. I mean, that will completely eat all your profit away and make sure that you're losing money. That is a huge jump, okay? And like I said, I thought I was going to rent it out for $900 to $1,000. Ended up renting out the downstairs for $750, and that was the bigger unit. So I knew the upstairs wasn't going to be any better. So in my head, I'm already like, dang, this isn't working out how I thought it was going to work out. So I rented out the bottom, and then meanwhile, I lived there for a few months. My grandma ended up going to Florida for the winter. And I was like, okay, cool. She asked me if I would come stay at her house over the winter while she was gone in Florida and watch the dog and the cat. So I was like, yeah, I can definitely do that. And she's like, in the meantime, you can also rent out the top unit and then actually make some money on the property. So in my head, I'm like, wow, this is a win-win. So moved out, rented out the top unit to another guy. Me, I never had any issues with the bottom downstairs tenant, but for some reason, the upstairs tenant that moved into the property for $700 a month had a big issue with the guy downstairs. I think it was actually vice versa. I think the guy downstairs had issues with the guy upstairs. So I didn't have anything to do with the getting the tenants, anything like that. But fast forward through the entire time of these tenants being there, I called up my management company one day and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about selling the property. I just wanted to let you guys know. Can we schedule walkthroughs for some of the potential buyers that are wanting to buy the property? And she was like, I don't know if you guys know, or I don't know if you know much about like the situation that's been going on with these tenants. And I was like, no, like what's been happening? Apparently, the cops have been out there week in and week out, I guess. So the cops are always out there. The downstairs guy did not like the guy upstairs. So for whatever reason, he would go down to the basement because he had access down there. He would shut off the furnace to the guy upstairs and then turn it back on. He would shut off the water to the guy upstairs and then turn it back on. So I remember one day I got a bill as well, and it was like dropping space heaters off to upstairs unit. And I'm in my head, I'm like, he's got a furnace. What did the furnace go out? What's going on with this? And the guy shut off his furnace, so he had no heat. So they're dropping space heaters off upstairs, going downstairs, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm paying every time they went out to that property to do something like that. I think it was like $250. So I'm irritated. At this point, though, I know, okay, this was not a good deal. I was not cash flowing anything on this property. So anyway, the tenant situation was just awful. Cops were out there all the time. They were always arguing. Stuff was always happening. And the downstairs tenant ended up finally moving out, luckily. We were able to get some walkthroughs on the property. And yeah, that was kind of the tenant situation, okay? So I had one tenant downstairs the entire time, and then one tenant upstairs the entire time I owned the property. Now, we're gonna move on to the selling of the property. Okay, guys, this is where it gets spicy. This is where it gets interesting. This is where you can learn a lot. So, I went to sell this property. I had a buyer. They were willing to give me enough to where I was happy with selling the property. And everything is good to go. They're pre-approved. They're ready to close. The day before closing, not 2 days, not a week, the day before closing, we get a call from the lender. Hey, we can't close this one. The property is zoned. It was either zoned R1 and it needed to be R2, or zoned R2 and needed to be zoned R1. But basically it was zoned as a single family residence when it was supposed to be a duplex or like a multi-family residence. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, can I just call the city? What I had to do, guys, is I had to call the city. The city are the slowest people known to man when you need anything done, okay? So I had to call the city, and I had to apply for a variance. So I had to apply for the variance, but in order for me to do that, I had to bring them reasonable information proving to them that the property has been a duplex, always been a duplex, hasn't been vacant for more than 12 months by any of the owners in the last 24 years at the time. So it was from 1999 on. So yeah, 25 years, something like that. In my head, I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, how am I gonna find all the owners of this property from the last 25 years? Like, who knows if they're even alive? How are they gonna prove that the property wasn't vacant for more than 12 months at any given point in time? And so I was just irritated. I was kind of defeated at that point, guys. Honestly, I was like, this is just dumb. Like, I'm gonna be holding this property for a long time, or I'm gonna have to convert it back to a single family. But I didn't give up. I went back to the property card. Luckily, there had only been, I think, two owners. There was two owners of the property since I had bought it. So I email them. I true people search them. I do what I got to do to get a hold of these people. I'm texting them. I'm emailing them. Calling them. I'm trying to find out where they live so I can go to their property. Luckily, I ended up texting the guy like 15 times. He ended up getting back to me, and he was like, absolutely, if you need that, I can do like a written thing. I'll sign it, all that stuff. So we got it written out from them saying, hey, the property had always been a duplex since I had owned it. The property was never vacant for more than 12 months at one given point from the time that he had owned it to the time that he had sold it. Got all that signed, sent it to the city. Now I'm waiting for, I think it was in between like 4 to 5 months. I waited for the city. I was calling them every other week. Hey, have you guys heard anything? What's going on? Did I get approved? What's going to happen? 4.5 months, 5 months, whatever it is, go by. They finally, these people too had extended their contract with us. They really wanted to buy it. They extended their contract with us like 2 different times, and we're ready to buy it. I get a call. Hey, your property got approved. Everything's good to go. I call my realtor. I'm so happy. I'm like, we're good to go. Everything's looking good. All we have to do is just submit the variance that came from the city to the lender. They're going to approve everything. Boom, we're going to be good to close. We approve, or we send everything. Everything gets approved by the lender. Everything's good to go. Day before closing, I'm not even kidding you guys, the day before closing, again, we get a call. Hey, we can't close this one. The seller's pre-approval expired. It's been too long. We had to reapprove them. They didn't get reapproved this time. I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. You're telling me that you guys didn't figure this out until the day before we were supposed to close again? So, what do you know? They ended up trying to get reapproved. In the meantime, the buyer had ended up hurting themselves. They were off of work for a little bit. And then when they went to get reapproved, they couldn't. So now I'm sitting there and I'm like, bro, what is happening? Like, you're telling me all of this is going to go on while I'm trying to sell this property. Long story short, guys, waited another month, 2 months. She goes back to work, gets reapproved again. And we had the property listed. We had a couple of people interested, a couple low ball offers, stuff like that, investors. But she ended up getting approved again and scheduled closing. Everything was good to go. We didn't need another appraisal. Everything was good to go. We finally got this property closed, guys. I think it was 2 weeks ago now. Finally got the property closed, sold it. I sold it for, I think, $173,500, something like that. So all in all, I bought the property. My mortgage on it was $129,000 at the time when I sold it. And then I put the $25,000, I put $5,000 down. I'm all in for about $30,000, right? Plus all the payments that I made on the mortgage. So for those 6 months, nobody was living there besides me. So I'm paying that mortgage the entire time. So you got to think, I probably spent at least $12,000, $15,000 out of pocket every month on that mortgage. So I'm all in, we'll say, for $30,000 on the down payment and then rehab, and then we'll say $15,000 on the payments that I made. To continue the story, basically I was all in on the property for I want to say $15,000 for all the payments that I had made. And then all the money that I put into the property for renovations and stuff like that was probably around $22,000, maybe $25,000, somewhere in between there. So all in all, I would be all in on the property for around like 172, 173, something like that. And I ended up selling the property for 173,000. Minus some like different concessions and different things like that. So all in all, I ended up walking away net to my pocket with $27,432. So was this worth it? In my opinion, absolutely not. This was a horrible deal. Could it have been worse? Absolutely. But I like to think about it as I didn't make money. I didn't lose too much money. Obviously, I lost some money, especially over like time and different things like that. But luckily, I was able to get the amount of money that I did get back. And now I can use that to go buy more properties. But better yet, I learned a lot through the process. So I gained a lot of knowledge on when you're looking at the zoning on properties, renovation costs, and a bunch of different stuff like that. So hopefully that was definitely an interesting, fun story for you guys. If you guys are still looking to invest too, don't be afraid by this. But just remember to run your numbers a little bit better. But always take those risks, guys, because you don't learn unless you take the risk. So drop a comment below. Roast me in the comments or something if you think that was a horrible deal. Or just give me your feedback or your opinion. I'm always interested to hear what you guys think. So